We've done Jeremiah chapter 39, which details the fall of Jerusalem. Not much there, but chapter 52, the last chapter of the book, will give more details about what happened. So here we are at the cusp of what happens next after the fall of Jerusalem. It was kind of an anti-climax in a sense. Okay, what happens now? Right. So those who were taken, this was the second deportation, they were taken to Babylon on their way there. So, and the Babylonian army or military found Jeremiah still in the court of the palace, a prisoner. So he was set free, and we read of this man, this captain of Nebuchadnezzar's guard, called a man called Nebuzaradan. He was instrumental in arranging for the deportation of what happens in Jerusalem after the fall, what happens to Judah after the fall. So we know that Nebuchadnezzar wasn't in Jerusalem, he was just outside in Riblah. So when they called King Zedekiah at this moment, he was no longer king. From this onwards, he was just Zedekiah. So Zedekiah was taken to Riblah to meet Nebuchadnezzar. That was the incident that we read in 39. So, but we also read in 39 that God said to, there are a few names that is important. Nebuzaradan was the captain of Nebuchadnezzar's guard. From this time on, these are the names. And then what remained of Judah, he put a man called Gedaliah in charge, a Jewish guy. So Nebuzaradan put Gedaliah in charge of what remained of Judah. Jerusalem was no more. It was like ruins and burnt, and it was the headquarters of the decimated Judah is in Mishpah, not in Jerusalem. So we read of different names now from now on. And chapter 39, verse 15, the Lord said to Jeremiah while he was shut up in the court of the prison, saying, verse 16, go and speak to Ebed-Melech. Remember Ebed-Melech, the guy the Ethiopian who rescued Jeremiah out of the dungeons? The Ethiopian, saying, thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will bring my words upon this city for evil and not for good, and they shall be accomplished in that day. Before you will see it happen. I will just have the city destroyed, but I will deliver thee in that day, saith the Lord, and thou shalt not be given into the hands of the man whom thou art afraid. For I will surely deliver thee, and thou shalt not fall by the sword, but thy life shall be for a prey unto thee, because thou hast put thy trust in me. So go tell Ebed-Melech for the little thing that he did to Jeremiah to help to rescue him from out of certain death in the dungeon. Go tell him that his life will be spared for what he did for God's servant, and God will preserve his life. So we see that here, everybody is punished together. But for the remnant, there is kindness. And we see more kindness, that even if, as the Babylonians were the enemies, God used them to be kind to the remnant too. That's very important. And chapter 40. So what happened to Jeremiah? God sent Nebuzaradan to him, and he took Jeremiah in chains. He's going to be marched out and taken to Babylon in exile too. So here, chapter 40, it says that Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, took Jeremiah at this time in chains. They were marching out. You have to march north first before you head over the 1,000-mile trek to Babylon. So you have to pass through Ramah. Remember, they pass by Ramah, where the grave of Rachel is. And Rachel, you can see Rachel, this is Rachel's children, Israel, marching, whether it's the northern tribe or the southern tribe, that's a march through Ramah to get to wherever they go, the Syrian Empire, Babylonian Empire. So you have to go past Rachel's grave. And Rachel, you can almost, it's of course figurative, Rachel weeping for her children. So here at Ramah, what happened to Jeremiah? He was bound in chains among all that were carried away captive of Jerusalem and Judah, which was carried, now they're being marched over to Babylon. And the captain of the guard, Nebuzaradan, remember, a Chaldean, said to Jeremiah, said, the Lord thy God has pronounced this evil in this place, and he has brought it about. Verse 4, and now behold, I loose thee this day from the chains which were on thy hand. Seem good to thee to come unto me to Babylon? They come, and I will look after you there, if you want to come. And if not, you can go back to Gedaliah, who is in charge of Judah now, or you can go wherever you want. Wow. So here, but Nebuchadnezzar did ask Nebuzaradan to take care of Jeremiah. See, remember, the servants of the Lord will be taken care of by the enemies. So even as Jeremiah was being marched out through Ramah to go to Babylon, Nebuzaradan got hold of him, loosened his chains, and said, you are free, okay? You can come with me to Babylon and live there, and I will look after you. I will provide for you from the king's store. It's like, wow. Or you can go to Gedaliah, who's in charge now at Mishpah. Or go anywhere you want. It's like, wow, you are free. Oh, wow. So what do you want to do? It's up to you, see? And verse 6, then Jeremiah went to Gedaliah in Mishpah and dwelt with him there. So he decided to stay in Mishpah with Gedaliah and the rest of the people that is following Gedaliah. And here at Mishpah, you would think that, okay, it's over, now let's rebuild our lives. We have the lands left over by the rich people. We can farm it, make it productive again, and pick up the pieces, right? Right. But there are people, even among themselves, Gedaliah, being Jewish, was put in charge by the enemy, Nebuchadnezzar, the Chaldeans, to be in charge of the remnant that's left there. At Mishpah, there was jealousy, and there were all kinds of things. Men, we think that those Jewish people are really, but we don't seem to think that men, nothing has changed. We are still the same sinful people. Given the chance, we would do the same thing. So there was a man called Ishmael, a Jewish guy, who now, they are even in Jesus' time, they're zealots. Jesus said, live among the Roman conquerors and do your thing. But there were zealots even his time. So the Romans hate that. The Romans would kill every rebel, every Jewish rebel, so that around Jerusalem or Judah, whatever you call it, Palestine, the whole hillside was littered with with crosses. That's what happened to rebels. That there was not enough wood. They have to recycle the crosses. So here is the same thing. This Ishmael, it's like a Jewish guy who went to the Ammonites and said, hey, let's come back and help me conquer back what's remained of Judah. and kill this guy Gedaliah who's been put in charge there. And there's another man called Kohanan. Kohanan warned Gedaliah, you know what, be careful. He's after your back. He's going to kill you. But Gedaliah said, no, don't worry. You know, the Lord will preserve my life. It was, you know, naive that way. He didn't take any precautions. But true enough, Ishmael came and killed Gedaliah and took all of Gedaliah's followers and went to Ammon with them. And here Johanan, the son of Kareah, spoke to Gedaliah to warn him, of course. But now it happened and Gedaliah is killed. So what happens? Kohanan or Johanan went after Gedaliah, went after Ishmael in Ammon and fought them and took back the supporters of Gedaliah back to Mizpah. So it was a very trying time. We have to set this up because what happens next depends on the situation there. So even after the destruction of Jerusalem, we think it's over and the exile, you know, now starts the 70 years exile. Still inside this ragtag ravaged place, there was still infighting. So here, Gedaliah being put in charge is killed by Ishmael, and Ishmael has been banished to Ammon, and now there's left Kohanan, who is in charge of whatever is remaining, and also Jeremiah. So what happens next depends on this ragtag group of people, and it says that it's really a motley crew of all kinds, whoever is left, young and old, male and female, rich and poor, it keeps on saying, from the least to the greatest, least to the greatest. So they were all there gathered at Mizpah. So what do we do now? And that's when they started making plans. You know, instead of just staying, they left. So in the next post, we'll talk about what happens to Jeremiah and what happens to this ragtag group of people under Johanan.